ladies and gents, and welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the P-51 D-20NA. Today's battle is Krimsk Alternate History. It is the Allies versus Russia. It's a 5.3 battle rating match, with the Allied team consisting of a mix of the American Premium Spitfire, Spitfires, P-51s and a Corsair. The Russian team is featuring predominantly Yak-3Ps, with LA-7s, LA-7B-20s and their own Premium Spitfire. So at this point in the match I've been climbing hard. I'm passing 19,500 feet at this point. I've just encountered my first Yak-3P. He's coming at me in a head-on. Now he is diving down from 20,000 feet. He does have an energy advantage on me at the moment, so I want to get him to turn away and then dip in underneath him. So I pull up sharp, fire my shots and then level out. Now this has cost me a lot of my speed, and my slow airspeed has caused my water to overheat, but it's not a problem at this point. Just maintain level flight at 20,000 feet, slowly let the plane accelerate. But the Yak was coming out of a dive, so he's pulling back up from underneath. He's completed a 180 to turn back on me and is now closing on me in about a 35-degree climb. So, put the nose of the P-51 down. While the Yak's performance at this altitude is questionable, it still can't catch a P-51 once you've accelerated past 400 kilometers an hour at over 15,000 feet. You will just open a gap, and as you can see I'm sitting at 18.3 at the moment. I'm very slowly descending at this point, but I'm extending the gap out past a kilometre. I'm now outside of his guns and I'm able to open the distance. Now we have an LA-7 spotted down below. It's moving to engage targets. I'll have to keep an eye on that one. Now a P-51 that was following me in my climb is moving to engage the Yak-9. This has caused the Yak-9 to break away. I'm looking for an opportunity here to turn back. As the gap starts extending, I get ready to begin a turn back on the Yak-3P. Now the Yak has pushed itself into a dive in order to gain airspeed and evade the P-51 at this point. I take the opportunity to turn back and try and get guns on him, but he sees the turn back and immediately pulls up to go into a head-on for a second time. Now he realises why he could have got guns on me, I was going to get guns on him as well, so he pulls up sharply to break away. I've pulled the throttle back in order to cool off the engine and then re-accelerated to 100%, and I don't turn back on him. I just start opening the distance on him again. He's gone into a sharp banking turn to pull back into my position and to engage the second P-51, and in the process of doing that he's blown most of his energy and his airspeed. So at this point I begin my turn back by continuing to climb, trying to keep my airspeed above 300 kilometers an hour. This will allow me to settle in a comfortable position above him with the energy advantage. Now a Typhoon has joined us at altitude and is also engaging the Yak-3. This was one of those wonderful matches you find when most of the Allied team was at altitude and everybody was looking to engage fighters. Now the rest of the Russian team at this point is at about 10,000 feet. We're slightly too high to be able to see them, but they're all centered around the area that LA-7 down below is in, between there and the town on the coast. Now I would like to get down there and start dealing with those medium altitude, low altitude fighters, but I cannot leave a Yak-3 at altitude above us, so me and the fighters that are up here have to push him to the ground or kill him before we can move low safely. And thankfully he seems to be obliging us. He's put it into a dive to get down into that low altitude fight. He's realised that he's not going to have a hope if he stays up here, continuing to engage 3 aircraft simultaneously. So at this point I'm not entirely sure whether or not to continue the engagement on him or look for a second target, so pull the plane into the vertical and loop it around, pull the throttles back. This gives me an opportunity to accelerate the aircraft in the dive while cooling the engines off at exactly the same time. It also allows me to hold a position directly above the engagement until I decide what to do next. Now, the biggest problem that I've got at the moment is I'm actually too high. The combat has rapidly descended to the ground. Why having the altitude advantage is excellent, if you are too high you cannot directly dive on the targets because you'll accelerate to your wing brake threshold before you get within gun range. So I need to take a couple of steps down, which is what I'm doing here. Now I've dropped my altitude to just below 10,000 feet. I'm still one of the highest altitude aircraft in this match, but I'm at a safe altitude that I can select my targets and begin to engage safely. First shots through, and there goes the Yak-3P. Immediately use the energy that I gained in that dive to begin pulling back to altitude. I want to head back towards 8 to 10,000 feet, hold position, and then move to engage again. Now there is a second Yak-3P directly below me, and he's looking like my next target, so tip the plane over. Begin my dive. Throttle back to 75%, keep the engines cool. He quickly brings the nose around and tries to engage me in the vertical, take the lead, light him on fire, continue the dive through, keeping the weapon, getting as much airspeed as I possibly can, and then pull back into the vertical and zoom out of the area. Second kill. Now I have an LA-7 to my rear, it is closing in on the fight, and it does have a slight altitude advantage on me at this point, so I want to continue through, maintaining my climb, but I want to drop the nose down slightly so I'm not losing so much airspeed, so that LA-7 cannot catch me. LA7s perform best at sub 10,000 feet. I do not want to engage this guy without an energy advantage. So at this point I'm just going to continue out, brake right down the coast, continuing to climb, trying to maintain my airspeed as best as I can before turning back to re-engage the targets. Now, I know a lot of people struggle with the P-51. I used to be one of them. It was a plane that didn't appeal to my flight style when I first started using it. The key to the P-51 is in and out, always maintaining your airspeed and always maintaining altitude on your targets. Don't turn with them. Don't engage in low-speed combat with any targets. That's the point that you suffer massive engine overheating issues. That's the point where you get outmaneuvered. That's the point where you get shot down. You'll notice that I have been overheating the engine regularly while flying the P-51 in this manner, but it's always been incredibly easy to control, whether or not I'm pulling back on the throttles in my turns as I'm beginning a turn back on target in order to give the engine time to cool down, or simply just dropping the throttles back slightly while maintaining level flight at altitude. Not so much that you don't lose speed, but enough that the engine has time to cool down. Everything becomes very easy to manage, providing you haven't got it in a slow speed, extremely tight turning engagement. That's not what the P-51D was built to do, it's not where it performs best, and it is a place where you will likely get yourself shot down. Now at this point in the match, the Russian team is down to just 2 aircraft. Baron von Meer knows he's in trouble, he's running back towards his base, he's looking for flak support, and he's looking to meet up with the second fighter so that they can work together in order to try and take us down. Now I know somebody in the comment section is going to ask, is that Baron von Games? I don't know, Baron changes his name fairly regularly from what I've seen, but I'm going to err on the side of caution and say it's not. Now, while we pursue the LA7 back towards its base and get ready for the final engagement, I know a few of you are probably waiting for my opinions on the P-51D's down tier to 4.7. Now look, about 12 months ago the P-51 was down tiered to 5, and I said then that if Gaijin continued using average player performance in an aircraft like the P-51 or in any aircraft in the game, we were going to see another down tier in the future, and here it is. 12 months later, we're down at 4.7. There's no point discussing the individual battle ratings of any aircraft in War Thunder anymore. Pretty much every aircraft in the game is either over-tiered or under-tiered at this point due to the way this system operates. And demanding a fix to any one individual aircraft within the game is not going to fix anything because there will still be 40 other aircraft that also need to be re-tiered at that point. What I will say is that if the system continues as it is, I suspect we'll see a P-51D at 4.3 at some point in the future. I don't think it'll ever get quite so low as 4.0. I think Gaijin will lock the battle ratings before it can get that far. They've done it with other aircraft before. For the longest time, they locked the battle rating of the ME-262 and refused to down tier it regardless of its performance. I think the same thing will probably happen at 4.3, preventing the P-51 from ever getting to 4. But 4.3 in the future, I think, is entirely possible and highly likely unless the system changes. So at this point, Baron von Governor has reached his flak support. He's beginning a turn right. I'm continuing to track him. I'm not diving just yet. I'm waiting for him to start climbing, which he's just begun doing. So at this point, I'll dip the nose down. As he starts losing energy in his high angle climb, it'll give me the opportunity to take him in a stall, but that's when I spot the Yak 3P coming in from the right. 1 kilometer out, he dips it over and goes back into a dive. I'm not going to tip it over. It'll give the Yak 3 an opportunity to get me. I'll use the energy that I gained in that dive to start pulling back to altitude. If the Yak 3 turns in on me, it should blow all of its energy trying to take it vertical. Take a slight clip from AAA there. Now I took a guess at the Yak's energy at this point and guessed that it wouldn't be able to close the distance on me. I was actually incorrect. I managed to dip through its guns. However, it doesn't seem to be overly high in energy. It wasn't able to bring itself around to get good aim. Re-engage the LA7, open up the throttles and begin opening up the gap on the Yak 3. Now the Yak 3 has made a turn back to follow me, however our premium American Spitfire has begun to engage him. That should keep him distracted for a few moments. Closing rapidly on the LA7. I'm riding the WEP hard despite the engine temperature as I want to close on this LA7 before it comes out of this stall turn. Shoot poorly, I do get some clips on target but nothing serious. Pull the P-51 into the vertical, using all of my airspeed to take altitude on both Russian aircraft so I can turn back. As I pass the peak of the loop, flaps on, engine back to 0 in order to cool off the engine. Roll out for level, retract the flaps and engine back to 100% in order to re-dive on both targets. Now the fight down there has become a very tight turning furball. I don't want to shallow dive into that, so holding altitude until I see a breakaway. The Yak 3 breaks out of the fight first, straight into a 90-degree dive, roll to intercept. take the lead. Unfortunately, in that angle, I wasn't able to bring the guns around fast enough. The Yak redives away once again, pull the P-51 back into the vertical, loop over and get ready to redive. Aileron roll through the loop in order to line up my shot for the next dive. 1.43 kilometers away and entering the dive at 400 kilometers an hour. This is an extremely high closing speed. Stand on the elevators to put the guns in front of him. He rolls at the last second, however, throws my guns off aim. However, the second P-51 going vertical, making a close pass by me, fires the shot and takes the Yak-3 out, leaving just the LA-7 remaining. Now, the LA-7 has taken out the P-51 it was engaging and it's moving in to re-engage the fight. I've used the energy that I gained on the dive on the Yak-3 in order to take altitude above, and I'm just holding at the moment, waiting for the moment to tip over as the LA-7 pulls in underneath. The LA-7 goes head-to-head with the Premium Spitfire and takes it out. However, it opens itself up for a shot, smoke the engine, and then smoke the plane. Third kill. And with Baron von Governor taken out, that is the end of the match. And a bloody good match it was too. There was a lot of really good pilots, both on the Allied team and on the Russian team for this one. And it was just great fun. So with the match over, let's go through to the results. So, second place for the team with 3 kills. A shout out to Mega Pilot on the Allied team who took first place for the team and also took 3 kills of his own. Awards for the match were Multi-Striker X2, Fighter Rescuer, Avenger, Professional X2, Shadow Strike Streak X2, Win Streak X3, Final Blow and the Best Squad. Also a shout out to Baron von Governor, first place on the Russian team with 3 kills of his own and last man standing. 53,370 Silver Lions with no premium and no boosters. Would have been 82,004 should I have had premium. 3,567 research points with no boosters. Would have been 7,134 with premium. So, the P-51 D20NA, well, actually all of the P-51s, as they all share a flight model excluding the D-30, which has a slightly more powerful engine, but is known to overheat slightly quicker. The amount of times I hear people say that this is just a bad aircraft, that it's just not very good, it's not true. It is actually a really, really good aircraft. It's just very unforgiving if you fly it wrong. It's a plane you need to be patient in. You need to take the time to get it to altitude, even if it means you miss the initial engagement period within a battle. You need to always make sure you have an energy advantage over the targets that you're wanting to engage. Otherwise, you're likely going to get yourself killed. And if you find yourself in a tight turning battle with almost any other fighter in the game, you've likely done something very, very, very wrong in the way you've approached the battle. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.